And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. We do have some breaking news to get to. We're learning a major arrest was just made by the Department of Justice here regarding drug cartels and drug trafficking. This is quite the big kahuna here. So this is what we know. That the Justice Department just issued the following statement from Attorney General Merrick Garland on the arrests of alleged leaders of the Sinaloa cartel, Ismael Zambada Garcia, also known as El Mayo, and Joaquin Guzman Lopez. And you see their mugshots there before you. So, and we're learning, I want to put the statement up from Merrick Garland. Let's read it here as well. Garland says this: the Justice Department has taken into custody 2 additional alleged leaders of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most violent and powerful drug trafficking organizations in the world. Ismael Zambada Garcia, or El Mayo, co-founder of the cartel, and Joaquin Guzman Lopez, a son of its other co-founder, were arrested today in El Paso, Texas. Now, the son of its other co-founder, that's referring to El Chapo there as well. Now, Garland goes on to say in the statement, both men are facing multiple charges in the United States for leading the cartel's criminal operations, including its deadly fentanyl manufacturing and trafficking networks. He goes on to say El Mayo and Guzman Lopez join a growing list of Sinaloa cartel leaders and associates who the Justice Department is holding accountable in the United States. That includes the cartel's other co-founder, Joaquin Guzman Loera, or El Chapo, another of El Chapo's sons and an alleged cartel leader, Ovidio Guzman Lopez, and the cartel's alleged lead sicario, Nestor Isidro Perez Salas, or El Nini. So we're learning that these arrests took place today in El Paso, Texas. Let's put up their mugshots yet again here. You can see them right now. So this is quite significant here. Reading more from the Associated Press that the U.S. government had offered a reward of up to $15 million for information leading to his capture, referring to...
Arrested them right in El Paso, Texas, boy. Who would ever thought? Probably it really ain't far-fetched. You know, that's where a high-class, rich, you know, Mexican from Mexico probably will move El Paso, Texas. You think about it, they got nice houses in El Paso, Texas. Look it up. They got nice houses, nice. I'm like, this must be drug cartel money. People fixing up this real estate. They got houses over there looking like Beverly Hills. I'm talking about for sale, for cheap, like 150,000 under market.
El Mayo, the historic leader of Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, now in the custody of the U.S. Department of Justice.
Hooked up though with, you know what I'm saying, like backyard, got everything in there, like it's hooked up. Backyard oasis, swim pool, all that, like cheap.
As well as Joaquin Guzman Lopez, a son of another infamous cartel leader, being El Chapo. They were both arrested today by U.S. authorities in El Paso, Texas. So, like I said, this is quite something. Remember, in recent years, El Chapo's sons have led a faction of the cartel known as the Little Chapos, or Chapitos, that has been identified as one of the main exporters of fentanyl to the U.S. market. Now, you'll remember, El Chapo Guzman was sentenced to life in prison in the United States in 2019.
The Chapitos. The Chapitos.
You'll remember that case was prosecuted and adjudicated in Brooklyn, New York. Back out there to some more of this video. Now, you'll remember that they were seen as more violent and flamboyant than Zambada. Their security chief was arrested by Mexican authorities in November. One of them, Ovidio Guzman Lopez, was arrested and extradited to the U.S. last year. He pleaded not guilty to drug trafficking charges in Chicago in September. So this is, like I said, a family affair of El Chapo Guzman, his sons, and this other, like I said, big kahuna, El Mayo there, with the operations of the Sinaloa drug cartel now being quite hampered and impeded by these.
El Paso, Texas, and Chicago, best believe they there.
Arrests today. Also, you can get the sense that there was cooperation between Mexican and American authorities as well. So I wanted to make sure we got this story into you going forward. So more, though, on Zambada.
All them fake old Erkies. All them fake old Erkies. Illin' people.
He was one of the longest surviving capos in Mexico. He's considered the strategist of the Sinaloa cartel, more involved in day-to-day operations than his flashier and better-known boss, El Chapo. Strong ties, though, to Colombian cocaine suppliers and his cells across the U.S. made Zambada one of the most powerful drug traffickers in the world. He'd been among the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel since the 1970s, with their principal livelihood being the sale of narcotics in the United States. So, and you can see there the evolution of kind of the drug trade with some of these cartels to our neighbors down south there in Mexico, from cocaine to heroin, a lot of these narcotics, and then ultimately ending in the very deadly narcotic fentanyl there. So I wanted to make sure, like I said, we got this breaking news in as well.
Tonight, two of the world's most powerful drug lords are in U.S. custody, including the son of former kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, both charged with flooding the United States with drugs like fentanyl and cocaine. CBS's Manuel Bojorquez reports that federal agents used trickery and deception to make the arrest.
This photo, obtained by CBS News, shows 76-year-old Ismael El Mayo Zambada, a leader of the Sinaloa cartel, just before he was duped and apprehended by U.S. law enforcement after a months-long operation to capture him. CBS News has learned Zambada thought he was flying to see property in northern Mexico Thursday, but was instead flown to a small airport outside El Paso, Texas, and promptly arrested. He was lured, according to multiple sources, by someone close to him, Joaquin Guzman, a top cartel official and son of the notorious drug lord known as El Chapo, in an act of betrayal.
Wow. They tricked him like he was being flew to buy property. Wow. Somebody close to him sent them off. Wow, got him out of there. Wow, they tricked him like he was being flown to look at property to buy. That's how they got him.
Guzman was also arrested. The reason he cooperated, not immediately disclosed.
The Justice Department will not rest until every single cartel leader, member, and associate responsible for poisoning our communities is held accountable.
The men are accused of running one of the most powerful and ruthless criminal organizations in the world. The DEA says the Sinaloa cartel generates billions each year and is the largest supplier of synthetic drugs like fentanyl into the U.S. It's helped fuel an overdose epidemic. Nearly 75,000 Americans died from synthetic opioids last year.
Yeah.
Guzman is expected to face a judge in Chicago next week. Zambada pleaded not guilty, today, in El Paso. He's been quoted in the past as saying that should he be captured, there are plans for the cartel to continue. So drugs likely will still flow to the north as long as there's a market for them. Major?
As long as there's a market. Manuel Bojorquez, thank you.
I don't care. I don't. They bogus. Like, they put plenty bad. Like,
when your dad is El Chapo, you're all in the family business. Over the decades, Chapo's family business supplying 80% of Chicago's fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamines. Tonight, the latest member of the El Chapo family is in Chicago's federal lockup. Joaquin Guzman Lopez ordered held without bond after pleading not guilty during a short arraignment today. Guzman was on board this private prop jet that took off from Mexico and landed near El Paso, Texas, where American law enforcement took him into custody, along with this passenger, his father's former drug business partner and cartel co-founder with El Chapo, Ismael El Mayo Zambada. The circumstances of the mysterious plane diversion to a
they tricked him like he was going to buy property.
U.S. airport tonight remain largely unknown, even as 38-year-old Guzman has been brought to Chicago to face federal drug trafficking charges.
I'm not sure exactly what actually happened, but all I know is that Joaquin Guzman is in Chicago and I'm representing him.
After entering a not guilty plea at a courthouse that today was rung by extra security, Guzman's attorney disputed public accounts of how the plane ended up in Texas, that it was a kidnapping by Guzman, or that he tricked El Mayo and turned him over to U.S. officials in an effort to obtain a favorable plea deal. The lawyer says Guzman is not cooperating.
Well, did they say that was a lawyer from Milwaukee that's representing him?
very interesting. I don't disagree with the allegations, but as I said, the allegations keep changing, by the day. I'm sure that eventually everything will come out. I just don't want to feed the beast.
Former federal prosecutor here and chief ABC7 legal analyst Gil Sofer tonight says it sure looks like El Chapo's son has engineered a scheme to help himself. From a legal standpoint, does it matter how he ended up in the U.S.?
So his lawyer is certainly going to argue that it matters. He will argue that he was forcibly abducted and that violates his due process rights, but that's probably a losing argument. What matters is what happens once he's on U.S. soil, and if he was treated appropriately here, then this prosecution can probably go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever masterminded the flight to justice from Mexico to Texas and now to a courtroom in Chicago, there is a practical result to being arrested on American soil instead of Mexican. Accused cartel leaders arrested in Mexico would have faced extradition in the terms of a U.S.-Mexico treaty that prohibits extradition in a death penalty case. With Chapo's son and top 8 arrested in the U.S., the death penalty is on the table, and it is a possibility.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago.
Wow.
Witness News.
Wow. They tricked them good. Wow. Wow. They cold. It's a dirty game. They these people, boy, they don't play. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, they kill people, they put out bad drugs that kill people just to get their money. That's just, Wow.
Take a look at this video here. Parts of Culiacan have been besieged, the cartel burning vehicles there and setting roadblocks in an apparent effort to intercept Guzman. They even attacked the city's main airport after a bullet struck an Air Mexico plane. Passengers took cover on board. Authorities eventually had to ground that flight.
They really went to war. They really started a war for him, boy. You see that?
Being a cop in Mexico has to be among the most difficult jobs in the world. In fact, it's just like walking on a tightrope. You have to find a striking balance between doing your job and offending the cartels, because one wrong move could cost you your life. Sadly, this was the case for Eduardo Triana Sandoval, a 32-year-old state law enforcement officer who was fired 155 times by unknown gunmen outside a shopping center in Culiacan, Sinaloa, on November 6, 2019. Sandoval was not just a random victim of this senseless act of violence. He was a key player in the failed attempt to arrest Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the son of the notorious narco lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, who was captured and released by the military in a chaotic operation that sparked a warlike assault by the Sinaloa cartel. But what was Sandoval's role in this operation? And how did he get caught up in this horrific mess? Let's explore the heartbreaking story of Eduardo Triana Sandoval, the cop who lost his life for his role in the arrest of El Chapo's son. The Secretary of Public Security of the state regrets the death of a member of the state police, Eduardo, who lost his life this Wednesday in the capital of Sinaloa. That was the vague official statement issued by the Office of the Mexican Secretary of Public Security following the brutal murder of Officer Eduardo Triana Sandoval. Anyway, the spokesman also added that they were in solidarity with the family and friends of the fallen officer. You see, Sandoval was not just an ordinary cop. He was described by his colleagues and superiors as a dedicated, loyal, and courageous officer who always went out of his way to serve his country. He was part of an elite unit of
Dog, they still illing people. They still knocking people off, dog. They got, the way they got arrested, the death penalty is on the table for them in U.S. And they still knocking people off, giving these people a hard time.
State law enforcement that was assigned to protect the Undersecretary of Public Security, a high-ranking official in charge of the state's security affairs. He was also part of the Rapid Intervention Group, GIR, a special force that dealt with high-risk situations and emergencies. His death was not a random act of violence, but a possible retaliation for his involvement in a daring operation that captured one of the most wanted criminals in the world, Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the son of the notorious narco lord, El Chapo. Sandoval was in his early 30s when he lost his life, leaving behind a promising career that started just in 2013. He was known for his bravery and dedication to his duty, always willing to serve and protect. He was among the few who dared to confront the powerful and ruthless narco cartels that terrorized the state. But his courage came at a very high cost. In October 2019, a month before his death, he took part in a risky mission that aimed to arrest Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the leader of the Sinaloa cartel and the heir of El Chapo's criminal empire. This mission turned into a nightmare, as the cartel unleashed a fierce resistance that forced the military to release Ovidio and retreat. The incident sparked a wave of violence and chaos in the city, and obviously triggered a vendetta against Sandoval and some of his colleagues who also got caught up in this horrific mess. But what exactly happened on that fateful day? And what role did Sandoval play in it to deserve this level of brutality from the Sinaloa cartel? Let's take...
How can a robot cook over 2 million baskets of fries? Meet Flippy, the AI-powered kitchen robot from Miso Robotics that can help restaurant owners make more profits.
Take a closer look at the events that led to the capture and release of Ovidio Guzman Lopez and the tragic aftermath that followed. On October 17, 2019, the Mexican military launched a covert operation to capture the two Guzman brothers, Ovidio Guzman Lopez and Ivan Archibaldo Guzman Salazar, who were wanted by the United States for illegal substance trafficking and other crimes rackets. They had been tracking their movements for months and finally located them at a house in Culiacan, the capital of Sinaloa. The plan was to arrest Ivan first and then move on to Ovidio, but things didn't go as planned. Ivan somehow got wind of the raid and escaped before the soldiers could reach him. He then quickly gathered his loyal sicarios and prepared them to defend his brother at all costs. He knew that the military would not stop at him and that they were going next for his brother, Ovidio. And boy, was he right, because within minutes, a squad of elite troops surrounded Ovidio's house and engaged him and his men in a fierce gun battle. Ovidio tried to resist, but he soon realized that he was outgunned and outnumbered. So he made the wise decision to drop his weapon and surrender.
So the other son got away, huh? Ovidio got caught. Let's go back. I want to go back. Let me hear that again one time.
And prepared them to defend his brother at all costs. He knew that the military would not stop at him and that they were going next for his brother, Ovidio. And other crimes rackets. They had been tracking their movements for months and finally located them at a house in Culiacan, the capital of Sinaloa. The plan was to arrest Ivan first and then move on to Ovidio, but things didn't go as planned. Ivan somehow got wind of the raid and escaped before the soldiers could reach him. He then quickly gathered his loyal sicarios and prepared them to defend his brother at all costs. He knew that the military would not stop at him and that they were going next for his brother, Ovidio. And boy, was he right, because within minutes, a squad of elite troops surrounded Ovidio's house and engaged him and his men in a fierce gun battle. Ovidio tried to resist, but he soon realized that he was outgunned and outnumbered. So he made the wise decision to drop his weapon and surrender.
Oh, so that's how they
I imagine Ovidio must have thought that this was going to be the end of the road for him, because he couldn't have counted on how far his brother would be willing to go to make sure he was not captured that day. But Ivan was not going to let his brother go without a fight. So he ordered his sicarios to unleash hell on Culiacan until Ovidio was freed. They set up roadblocks, burned dozens of vehicles, attacked planes at local airports, and freed about 49 inmates from the local prison. Within hours, Culiacan was transformed into a war zone, and the sicarios had one clear message for the government.
Release Ovidio, or your men will keep dying.
And these guys were playing around because after several hours of this fierce gun battle between the Mexican troops and the cartel sicarios, 8 officers and 1 civilian lay dead, while several others were severely injured. Others were abducted and held hostage. The cartel even imposed a curfew on the city and warned that anyone who violated it would be sent on an immediate journey to the afterlife. Meanwhile, the authorities had tried to calm the situation by forcing Ovidio to call his brother and ask him to stop the violence. But Ovidio's words fell on deaf ears as Ivan ignored his pleas to stop the chaos. He was determined to get his brother back at all costs. It was at this point that the authorities decided to count their losses and finally give in. The Mexican president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, announced that he had ordered the release of Ovidio and the withdrawal of the military. He claimed that this decision was made to protect the lives of the civilians and the soldiers. But to many people, this was a show of shame and weakness. I mean, it won't be out of place to wonder if the government had any control over the country, because as it seems, the masses and even the government themselves are all at the mercy of the cartels who can go however far it takes to get whatever they want. Anyway, on the day of Ovidio's attempted arrest, Officer Sandoval was not scheduled to work. Nonetheless, he decided to show up at the State Police Command Center when he heard the news of this major operation that was taking place in the city. According to official accounts, Sandoval wasn't directly involved in the arrest of Ovidio Guzman Lopez, but he was on lookout duty, and he did travel to the prison, where it was said that inmates had escaped. Later that day, he also accompanied the chief to the Aguaruto Penitentiary, local prison from where the inmates escaped. Much later, he joined a unit that was sent to various areas of Culiacan, where the cartel gunmen were patrolling the streets. Sandoval was just one of many other officers who risked their lives to restore order and protect the civilians on the day of this attack. Now let's fast forward to Wednesday, 6th of November 2019. About 3 weeks after Ovidio's failed arrest attempt, Sandoval had just finished his shift at about 7 p.m. 15 minutes later, he recorded this video in his car that captured what would be his last moments before driving to a nearby mall where he was presumably going to do some shopping or meet someone. Video from a nearby CCTV camera showed the moment the officer pulled in white sedan car. Almost immediately, another red sedan followed and pulled up beside him. Within seconds, 2 armed men jumped out of the red sedan and opened fire at his car while he was still inside. These men reportedly discharged at least 150 rounds of bullets on the officer's car before speeding away. And of course, no one would survive that hell of a bullet, not even if they were dressed in a bulletproof suit. The whole attack lasted less than 30 seconds, but it was enough to end the life of this brave law enforcement officer. Following this attack, it was widely believed that Triana Sandoval's murder was a retaliation by the Sinaloa cartel for his role in the events of October 17th. The cartel is known for its ruthless and vengeful tactics against anyone who interferes with their business or challenges their authority. They have murdered countless law enforcement officers, judges, journalists, and even innocent civilians over the years. They have also targeted the family members of their enemies, as they did with the son of a former cartel member who testified against El Chapo in his 2019 trial in the U.S. Triana Sandoval was not the first, neither will he be the last victim of the cartel's violence. But in this case, Ovidio Guzman would pay dearly for it. In 2021, the U.S. and Mexican authorities declared war on the Sinaloa cartel. They offered huge rewards for the capture of its top leaders. $5 million for each of the sons of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, known as the Los Chapitos, and $15 million for Ismael El Mayo Zambada, the co-founder and current boss of the cartel.
In 2021, the State Department had offered a $5 million reward for any information that led to Ovidio Guzman's arrest. And tonight, U.S. officials say his capture is a significant blow to the Sinaloa cartel.
But the Los Chapitos, especially Ovidio and Ivan, seemed to enjoy the attention. They didn't hide or lay low. Instead, they continued to flaunt their extravagant lifestyle on social media, boasting about their gold-plated weapons, stacks of money, and fancy cars.
Chapo's apparent #1 son doesn't hide his narco-world affluence. As we've reported, he posts video of his expensive fleet of sports cars, private planes, and the trail of cash that has made him a top target of federal agents in Chicago.
It was more like they were taunting the authorities and daring them to do their worst. But they should have known better to keep a low profile and learned from their father, who spent most of his life on the run or in prison. Well, they obviously didn't. And that was their downfall, which came 4 years after Ovidio's last arrest attempt in 2019. During this period,
well, if them people, they use that tactic on cartel bosses, your social media, you know what I'm saying? Track your social media and what you're doing, and they can use it on y'all. Better stop it.
the DEA and the Mexican government worked together to track down Ovidio once again and prepared for a decisive strike in January 2023. On the morning of January 5th, a team of 200 elite soldiers and agents surrounded a safe house in Culiacan, the capital of Sinaloa, where Ovidio was hiding. They stormed the building and captured him within a few minutes, without a single gunfire. Mission accomplished. The operation was a successful and flawless one. But as the news of his arrest got out, all hell broke loose as the cartel unleashed another wave of violence across the city, attacking security forces and civilians alike.
But his arrest didn't come without chaos. The cartel reacted violently by setting vehicles on fire, blocking major roads out of the city, and even opening fire on a military plane as it was arriving at the airport, forcing passengers inside this commercial flight to duck for cover.
They blocked the roads as they did in 2019, set fire to vehicles, and freed dozens of prisoners. They even stormed the airport and opened fire at an Aeromexico aircraft with passengers on board.
Ovidio Guzman, the son of the infamous crime and drug lord known as El Chapo, was taken into custody early morning in Culiacan, Mexico, home to the Sinaloa cartel. The prominent cartel leader is believed to have played a role in drug trafficking and the production of fentanyl.
They're trying to say that the death penalty on the table for him. But if the U.S. give him the death penalty, there's going to be some problems. You better believe that.
Which has made its way through the southern border in record amounts, enough to kill every person in America.
It was a bloodbath, and in a matter of minutes, 29 people were dead, including 10 law enforcement officers. But no matter how many more people they would go on to murder, the authorities would not be intimidated and cajoled into letting him go again this time like they did in 2019. Ovidio Guzman was ultimately arrested on January 5th, 2023, and transported by a military helicopter to Altiplano prison, the same high-security prison in Mexico that his father had escaped from twice. 8 months later, on September 15th, the Mexican government extradited him to the United States. As he flew over the border, I imagine he would probably be wondering what would become of him from there. I mean, his father is already locked up in the most secure prison in America, the ADX Florence Supermax. Would he join him there? Or does a different fate await him? Well, the truth is, no one knows for sure. His case is still ongoing, and the outcome is uncertain. But if he ends up in the same prison as his father, he shouldn't expect any happy family reunion, because he won't even get to see his father. The Supermax is a place of isolation and misery, where inmates spend 23 hours a day in solitary cells, with no human contact. They are shackled and monitored at all times, even during their 1 hour of exercise. They eat alone, and they only get to socialize with other prisoners in the last 3 years of their sentence. But for El Chapo, who got a life sentence, and Ovidio, who could get one too, that privilege will never come. Do you think Ovidio's eventual arrest and incarceration serve as any form of justice for the death of Officer Eduardo Triana Sandoval? Please feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comments.
Kids out there, they catch the biggest of the biggest fishes. You don't want that. Go stay out the street, play on the sidewalk. Don't even come off the porch if you got to.
Below. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do well to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, guys. Until next time, please stay safe.
Imagine making $453,000 in a single month as an affiliate marketer without relying on Google, Facebook, or ClickBank, or creating new accounts on Pinterest, Twitter.
Tonight, after decades of evading authorities, 2 alleged leaders of Mexico's most brutal and powerful drug cartel are in U.S. custody. Joaquin Guzman Lopez, the 37-year-old son of Sinaloa cartel boss Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, and the cartel's co-founder, Ismael El Mayo Zambada Garcia, age 75, arrested after landing in a private plane in New Mexico.
Both men are facing multiple charges in the United States for leading the cartel's criminal operations, including its deadly drug manufacturing and trafficking networks.
3 law enforcement officials tell NBC News investigators believe...
Okay, so this El Chapo other son, the one that got away that day, that's the one. The one that got away that day. I see he done linked up with El Mayo. I know El Mayo, like, man, you done burned me up. I done been on the run all these years. I done been getting away all these years. Now, as soon as your ass get on, as soon as you want to come hang out with me because you on the run, because you know I be low, they done track me down.
Believe Guzman Lopez may have fooled El Mayo into getting on the plane, possibly under the impression Guzman Lopez would get more favorable treatment from authorities. El Mayo is one of the DEA.
What they say? Oh, wait. Hold on, what they say?
El Mayo into getting on the plane, possibly under the impression Guzman Lopez.
States for leading the cartel's criminal operations, including its deadly drug manufacturing and trafficking networks.
3 law enforcement officials tell NBC News investigators believe Guzman Lopez may have fooled El Mayo into getting on the plane, possibly under the impression Guzman Lopez would get more favorable treatment from authorities. El Mayo is one of the DEA's most wanted fugitives, accused of funneling huge quantities of fentanyl and other drugs to U.S. streets. There were an estimated 108,000 drug overdoses.
Guzman might have fooled El Mayo to getting on the plane. Guzman might have fooled El Mayo to getting on the plane because something about favorable more treatments from federal government. So El Chapo's son knew the setup was happening, like he knew they was going to jail. So is he the one that lured El Mayo? That what it found?
overdose deaths in the U.S. last year, according to the CDC, with an estimated 75,000 caused by synthetic opioids, including fentanyl.
Mayo and Guzman Lopez join a growing list of Sinaloa cartel leaders and associates who the Justice Department is holding accountable in the United States.
Among those being held accountable, El Chapo, who was captured in Mexico and extradited to the U.S. in 2016. He is currently serving a life sentence in a maximum security prison after being convicted of drug trafficking, money laundering, and weapons charges. 4 of El Chapo's sons, known as the Chapitos, are thought to have taken up cartel operations after their father's arrest.
They often torture and kill their victims. They have fed some of their victims, dead and alive, to tigers belonging to the Chapitos.
Tonight, 2 of the Chapitos.
Wow. He said they fed their victims to tigers. That's what they go, what?
Those are in custody. Last year, Ovidio Guzman Lopez was arrested and extradited to the U.S. In September, he pled not guilty.
The Chapitos is the brothers. El Chapo, the Chapitos.
To drug and money laundering charges. President Biden commending the joint Homeland Security, DEA, and FBI effort, saying, quote, "Too many of our citizens have lost their lives to the scourge of fentanyl. Too many families have been broken and are suffering because of this destructive drug."
The Justice Department will not rest until every single cartel leader, member, and associate responsible for poisoning our communities is held accountable.
Boy, they saying the death penalty on the table for these people. I know it'd be fair to give them the death penalty for so many people that didn't, so many people that died in America, but they better be ready. They better be ready. If they get them death penalty, they better be ready. Yeah, I know they deserve it, but U.S. better be ready. They definitely need to be held accountable, for putting that stuff over here, because it definitely killed a lot of people. But, yeah.
Tonight, it remains to be seen whether Guzman Lopez will get any of the leniency he was hoping for.
Justice and intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian joins us now. Ken, these men landed in New Mexico, then flew to El Paso, where they were arrested, as we saw in your piece. So what comes next?
And Valerie, Guzman Lopez waived his first appearance, and so he was flown in an FBI plane to Chicago, where we believe he's going to face some sort of federal criminal charges. But it appears the fate of these men will diverge, because Guzman Lopez made a deal.
Oh, so that was the trick. They tricked them and they flew to El Paso like they was going to El Paso. And I said that. I was looking at houses in El Paso, and I said that the houses in El Paso, you can get nice houses. Like, you can get a nice house for cheap. Like, if you want a nice house with oasis in the backyard and swimming pool, and if you want Hollywood Beverly Hills mansion looking, you don't want to pay that much, you can get one in El Paso. They got nice houses for 100 and 150 and 125 under market type. And I was like, I bet you cartels and stuff probably buy these houses in El Paso, Texas. These big old houses. If you look them up, realtor was sending plenty houses from El Paso. If you look them up though, nice houses. Like, I'm talking about decked out. I'm talking about marble floor, everything. I'm talking about oasis in the backyard, swimming pool. Man, nice for cheap. And I'm like, and look, they said that's how they tricked them. El Chapo's son and El Mayo, they was going to trick them into saying it was taking them on a private jet from Mexico to El Paso, Texas to look at some real estate. So that ain't their first rodeo. That ain't the first time they did that. That's what they do. I said that when I saw the houses over there. I said, man, I bet you any money the cartel, they invested in real estate and they buy these houses, and they can sell them under market for 100,000 under, because they got so much money. They get money from other areas. Other people that really doing real estate, they really can't sell it that cheap. I said that if you look up the houses over there.
deal here. He's clearly going to get some benefit for that. El Mayo is one of the most wanted drug lords in the world, and the U.S. is likely to try to throw the book at him. There are a number of, we believe, indictments around the country, possible charges that he could face. And if he follows the fate of El Chapo, his co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel, he would end up life in prison in a maximum security facility somewhere in the bowels of the federal prison system. Valerie.
All right, Ken Delanian, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Mexican drug trafficker Joaquin Guzman Lopez, son of the incarcerated kingpin known as El Chapo, is in U.S. custody. 2 U.S. officials told Reuters he was arrested along with El Chapo's former partner, Mexican drug lord Ismael Zambada, known as El Mayo. They said
El Mayo, that's the private jet they got arrested on. El Mayo been on the run for so long. People didn't even know his name or nothing on the bottom for a while, and then when El Chapo got arrested, people like, y'all think El Chapo is the man? El Mayo is the one he been on the run forever. As soon as his name just popped up recently, and now he got caught with El Chapo's son, and burnt him up. He been on the run for a long time, like a long time. He got like the biggest reward, 10 million or something. He been on the run for a long time, dog.
the pair were detained after landing in a private plane on Thursday in El Paso, Texas. It's a major coup for U.S. authorities. Both are major figures in the Sinaloa cartel.
This shows, man, you can go on a run for a long time. You can be the biggest drug lord in the world. These are the biggest. You know, El Chapo, El Mayo. These are the biggest. Like some of the biggest. You know, I'm pretty sure it's more, of course. Some win, some lose, but this just shows you could be the biggest and they can come get you. And the way they did it, the way they set it up, they flew them from Mexico to the U.S. And you know how these people do, man. They make up. It seems like they will make up a law or make up a case, make up a way they can charge you for something. So the way they did it or something, like how they flew from Mexico to El Paso, they can charge them with the death penalty. They got a way to charge them with the way they came, the way they took them over. They can charge them death penalty. And that's wow.
One of Mexico's most powerful criminal organizations. The U.S. Justice Department said in a statement that both Zambada and Guzman Lopez face multiple charges, quote, for heading.
I don't think the U.S. want to do death penalty on it, though. I don't think the U.S.
the cartel's criminal operations, including its deadly fentanyl manufacturing and trafficking networks. Zambada is one of the most consequential traffickers in Mexico's history and co-founded the cartel with El Chapo, who was extradited to the United States in 2017 and is serving a life sentence in a maximum security prison. After El Chapo's extradition, his criminal empire was inherited by his 4 sons, known as Los Chapitos, or Little Chapos, who took over his faction of the cartel and became some of the biggest exporters of fentanyl to the United States. U.S. federal prosecutors in February charged Zambada with conspiracy to manufacture and distribute fentanyl, which the Drug Enforcement Administration says is the leading cause of death for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45.
This is the little secret.
Los Chapitos.